Greetings to all and welcome, and thanks for joining us today. We have an excellent webinar today, but before we get started, please tell us where you're tuning in from in the comments box, and be sure to like this video so others in your network can also enjoy today's session. Today, we'll be sharing highlights from IFMA's newest report, The Personality of the Facility Professionals, Understanding the People Behind the Facilities. This report will be available in the IFMA store on or about December 18th. The member purchase price is $195 US, while the non-member price is $245 US. Participants of the study will receive a free copy of the report on or about December 18th, 19th. Consider becoming an IFMA member, as there are cost savings to IFMA member pricing. Today's presenters are Dr. Jake Smithwick, University of North Carolina at Charlotte, Associate Professor and Graduate Program Director. Next, Ms. Juliana Samoa, University of North Carolina at Charlotte, who has a master's of Science in Construction and Facilities Engineering and is currently pursuing a PhD in Infrastructure and Environmental Systems. Over to you, Jake.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Nick. And thank you all for being here today. We're so excited to go through and talk about our latest report with IFMA, understanding the personalities of facility professionals and really the people behind the facilities. I mean, how many times do we hire folks? Do we work about our teams? Only to realize that it's at the end of the day, it's really all about the people that are doing the work here. And so that's really what drove this particular research project. And we're so excited to be able to present that to you all today here. So our agenda going forward, we'll talk about how the project kind of got started. We'll go through some of the demographic analysis, and then we'll really dive deep into the personality traits that are specific to facility professionals. We'll compare them with other types of job roles and functions, and it's really quite interesting. There's definitely a clear way that facility managers behave and think and how they approach their job. So it's going to be a lot of fun, so definitely ask questions. Be sure to post your comments either on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you're watching this from, because we'll definitely address those throughout the presentation, and we'll be sure to do that. The Simplar Foundation, we are a group of researchers that work in facilities management research with IFMA and other organizations. We also work on project delivery, transformation, procurement, and all sorts of other areas. But at the end of the day here, the goal is to work with the industry to deliver actual usable products that make our lives, your all's lives, easier on a day-to-day basis. A brief history of how we kind of got today here, because it really sets a really good context for what actually has transpired. 2017 is when we've really got involved in earnest with IFMA, and since then we have published a number of different reports that looked at mostly on the benchmarking things. But the last couple of years, we're really focused on, in addition to the benchmarking, the people side of the facilities. So we had in 2021 the Global Salary Compensation Report. We have other related reports, Women in FM, what that has entailed and what's transpired with that. And the last 12 months or so has been, I think the phrase is, Nick, crazy busy in terms of the products we've produced, different benchmarks reports. So those are all available. Be sure to check those out. And we're excited to present kind of the next iteration of these reports here. Okay. So to think about why this is such an important topic, there's a couple of key questions that can help us understand what's actually going on. Important questions to answer, right? Some questions you may struggle with yourself here as a leader in a facilities organization is, how do you know if somebody is the right fit for your organization? Or what makes your team work really well together, right? How often do we think about, we're just looking to fill a seat. That's true, right? We need bodies to be able to do things here. But more importantly is finding the right people to fill those positions, right? And really what we also have to deal with, of course, is how do you do more with less? And in other words, budget cuts, right? I mean, we all face that on a regular basis as facility folks. And when we think about that and why that's relevant to the people aspect of this, is to think about how do we take our existing personnel and enhance the skills and capabilities they have, and by also knowing who they are and where their strengths are, right? So that's really what drove this particular study. Now, we're going to go through some economic data here briefly, And the only reason why we're doing this here is to also help convince us as to why this is such an important topic and why the people aspect. It's facilities management has always been about the people. I think we'd all agree with that. But it has never been more important than today to focus on the actual people who are doing the work. Okay, so brief history lesson. This is total world population. Obviously, it's been going up over time. You can see the current population in different regions throughout the world: India, China, United States, and Indonesia. Again, a lot of people out there. And the reason why I like to talk about this here is because there's a lot of people. We're trying to find people, and it's all about the people at the end of the day here. So, from a global population standpoint, and to ask ourselves here, since the year 2000, as the world population, has that gotten older or younger? And the answer is older by about 8.5 years. The total U.S. population is aging, right? Excuse me, the total global population is aging. Is this trend accelerating or decelerating? And in fact, it is accelerating. So, for example, in the United States, the last 10 years has been the greatest increase since this data has started happening. So we know that the overall population in basically all geographic regions is getting older. Why is this relevant to us, and why in the world we think about this from a personality and facilities management standpoint? The reason why that's relevant to us is that as the population ages and as folks begin to retire in mass, there's fewer people, younger people, that are coming into the workforce, not just FM, but to everywhere. So when you think about that, we have a lot of knowledge that is getting ready to retire and to not be in the workforce anymore. There's a huge need to supplement and enhance the newer people that are coming in as all this knowledge begins to leave the workforce. That's why this is such a big deal with an aging population, right? So this is looking at different age trends. For again, this is this total population here, but again, the main demographic we're looking at here is this blue here in the middle, right? Because these folks here are our primary workforce, and yes, it's increasing over time here, but the rate at which that is increasing is also slowing down because there's more older people on top here, right? So that's why that's such a big deal, right? Now, if we were to zoom in on the United States, just an example as why this is a big deal. This is a really good graphic that illustrates this. So what this shows is the total population, again, in the United States between 2010 and 2019, right? So the green boxes is 2019 data, and the white boxes is the 2010 data. And when you look at these two graphics here, there's a couple of things that really should cause us to take a pause and think about, oh my gosh, what in the world is going on here? And specifically, look right here at this demographic right here, ages 40 to 55 for both males, and then the same thing on females. When you compare it to 2010, again, this is just US, but you see this in other geographic locations, is that over the last 10 years, this particular demographic doesn't exist anymore. Or in other words, they've gotten older. Well, why is that such a big deal? Well, think about it. In your organizations, who are the most productive people inside of your groups? Who kind of sets the tone or the culture of who you are as a company? It's people in that age range, right? It's people that are right here. And when you compare over the last 10 years, that demographic has gone. They have the most expertise. In fact, I think a lot of those people that are in that age range, they just know how to get things done, right? They just do it. They know what to do. They set the tone of how you operate as an organization. And that particular group here is decreasing because they're getting older, right? Well, when you look at other information too, when you think about birth rates, so again, this is just US data. The 2020 birth rate was 4% lower compared to 2019. Now, some of that's driven by COVID. If there's a global pandemic, people are not really interested in having children. However, as you look at the birth rates, it went up by 1% in 2021, up 0.09% in 2022 and 2023. Compared to 1990, it was 31% higher. 1950 was 102% higher. So again, the reason why we like to think about this here, and why we talk about this, is because there are fewer people being born. And so as a facilities professional, fast forward, 10 or 15 years from now, when we're trying to fill out our workforce after, folks have retired, this becomes an increasingly difficult situation. Now, the other thing to think about this global or assume that the population data about this is that it's a very long-term challenge to deal with here. Right? This is not something that we can fix in a matter of weeks or months or even years. This is a multi-decade challenge here. So the reason why I bring this up here is because we know this is going to happen. It's already started happening in terms of mass retirements. And because of that, there has never been a greater need to focus on the actual people who are going to be doing the work, right? So there's all sorts of challenges and different things that we need to think about as we go forward and look at this. Again, I know this is just U.S. specific data here, but this is similar in other regions. Well, it provides a really good context as to what's going on. This is the total. This is a histogram. This shows total population of males and females. This is 1960, and we're going to look at how things have changed over time. Again, this is the similar patterns everywhere throughout the world. This is 1960. So we have a large group of people on the bottom. We have a small decrease, then a bump in the middle, and then it tapers off as people get older, right? So it's been like this. This is our historical expectation. Our fundamental way that the society operates in terms of economics is based on the population looking like this. Okay, this is 1960. Here's 1980. Here's 2000. Here's 2020. So what we're seeing here is that the total population is getting older and how the shape of this histogram is changing here. The reason why this is such a big deal is that when you think back to 1960, the way it used to be, is that when you have a lot of people on the bottom, the people in the middle here, in other words, the parents, are buying things for the people on the bottom, their children, and the projects that they're working on are invested by the people with all the money, which is those that are typically older, right? That's how we assume and how things have currently gone. Well, in 2020, obviously things have changed, and it's not like that anymore, right? Here's some more data. This looks at the total population that is over the age of 60. And you look at the last 10 years, it's completely taken off in terms of the overall average population. It'll eventually level itself out here in the 2030s, but what this tells us here is that we're in for massive, significant demographic changes over the next 10 years, right? Another way to look at this data here, this is the percentage of population that is under the age of 25. So again, we're roughly by here. This is where we're at here. So the total population is getting younger, or excuse me, not getting younger. There's fewer younger people available. Why is that relevant to us? Well, if you're looking to hire new folks into your organization to replace those that are retiring, there's less people available to do that. So when you look at this here, this is the percentage of population that's less than 25. In other words, your new hires at about 35%. And you just go forward here a couple years as they start entering the workforce, there's fewer and fewer people available. So as a way to illustrate this, a couple of years ago, I was asked, I'm a faculty member at a university. I was asked by somebody, they said, do you have any students that we could hire to look into? This is, again, a couple of years ago. Do you have any students that we could hire that have 10 years of experience, that have all these credentials that we could look at hiring from your program? And the response is like, that's a really difficult thing to deal with, right? Because there's not a lot of people like that, especially for new hires and that are going through and getting educated, right? So it's what I'm trying to say here, folks, is that it's challenging as we do it. And here's a projection of 2040, right? So we know this is happening. There are people that are getting older, and the way we look in terms of our society globally throughout the world is rapidly changing. Birth rates are dropping. This is the global outlook in terms of overall birth rates. 1950 was 35 births per 1,000 women. 2023 is down to 17 births per 1,000 people, right? So I know this is a lot of data. I know it's a lot of economic data here, but the main point that hopefully we're trying to drive home here is that there is a limited pool of high-performing experts and experienced personnel. And who's available varies by time, at what point in time, how, what's the demographics look like, that location, and of course, some market or sector that we're looking to do with you, right? It is my opinion that many organizations commonly underestimate the cost of working with average and low performing vendors and personnel. So because of that, as facility professionals, as we look to hire people and to work with them, we're basically in competition with each other for the same limited skill of skilled personnel, right? That's the key focus of all this here. There are not enough skilled people to go around here. And because of that, we don't have time to hire somebody only to realize 6 months later they're not a good fit. We need a tool here that can identify who's going to be a good fit for our organizations and identify that much earlier on than perhaps we do, right? I mean, how many times do you hire somebody and only to realize, after we get them all trained up, that they're not a good fit? Or we get them trained up and they go somewhere else because, for whatever reason, right? That's very costly from a financial standpoint, from a training standpoint, but also from the fact that we need to get things done inside of our organizations. So this leads us to the question then is when you think about the personnel or the people standpoint is what actually makes someone a good fit for our organizations? Typically we look at qualifications, what sorts of experience do they have, what's their availability to do the job, where they're located, prior experience, and other factors that we are looking at here to look at this here, right? So when you think about what makes someone a good fit here, and I think we can all think about that. I mean, reflect on your experiences in hiring somebody. I mean, yes, these are all key things that we looked at, but I think there's also a part of this here that we think about, we just have a good gut feel that somebody's going to be a good fit here. The focus of this research project is to help us better quantify or understand what does a good fit for a facilities person look like? What traits and personalities do they actually have? We know there's not enough people. There's various studies out there that 20 to 50, 60% of firms can't find enough people. They've lowered their hiring standards because they can't find people, and they've also started to increase their training to address some of these different things here, right? So in the future here, those companies that learn the fastest to do more with less will be the ones that are able to do this. And the way we do that is by training our personnel and understanding who our people are, right? We need an approach that's focused on the people, but also look at the technology to think about how we're actually going to get this done here. So what we're going to do about it is focus on the people we already have and may one day have. And how we're going to do this is understanding the human dimensions of facility professionals. That's the focus of the research, and that's what we're going to focus on for the next little bit of this presentation. So with that said here, Juliana, if you want to take us through and walk us through the details of what we found and kind of highlight some of those main lessons learned and outcomes from the research study. Juliana, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. As we focus on the people we already have and those we aim to attract, understanding the human dimensions of FM becomes very essential. And this involves exploring who they are, what drives them, and how we can support their growth within the industry.
And Juliana, if you want to go to slide share mode, that'd be fantastic.
Okay.
The presentation mode?
It's already in presentation mode.
So I think you might need to share the other screen then. So if you go click on the present button and then go to the other screen, that'd be fantastic.
I don't know if you can.
Maybe I can just why don't I bring this in on my side and you can just talk through that, Juliana. So
sure, that'll be great. Because
no worries at all. Okay, go ahead and take it away, Juliana.
Right. Sorry about that. Now, to build on this understanding, we must first take a closer look at the demographic landscape of the FMs. And this will help us identify the trends, gaps, and opportunities that help the workforce. So from our global survey, we featured insights from 756 FMs, the majority of which are heavily involved in facility operations, which we can see represent about 72% of the population. 89% of this population operates in-house. Going forward, we can see that 77% of our FMs are serving as mentors. And this indicates a culture of knowledge sharing and professional growth within the field. However, only 29% identify as mentees, which suggests a gap in the mentorship opportunities we have in the FM industry. When we examine job levels, we can see the majority of the 756 participants were senior level managers, and just a smaller gap at the entry level of the field. And then this is further highlighting the initiative to attract and retain early career talent in the FM industry. And lastly, we can see the age demographics, and it further underscores the need for a succession planning with the older generation dominating the field. Now, with that being said, this report marks the world's first and most in-depth exploration of the identity of the FM. So we'll take a look at the human dimension tool we used as a research team. Now, what you have to bear in mind is that this concept of human dimension goes beyond technical skills. It examines the factors that influence your decision-making process, your leadership skills, and your team dynamics in any organization you find yourself. So we'll begin by understanding the framework from Hexaco. The Hexaco Personality Inventory, it forms the backbone of understanding human traits. It is based on the Big 6 personality aptitudes. It has 4 facets. Each of these dimensions are further divided into sub-4 dimensions. And then these breakdown offers a granular look at the personality tendencies of any individual. And with 60 well-crafted questions, this survey allows us to deeply analyze the personality of professionals in the field. For instance, if you look at conscientiousness and agreeableness, they directly impact how managers organize and maintain operational harmony in their organization. If we take a look at the emotional intelligence tool, it helps us to understand how professionals navigate interpersonal relationships and manage themselves. So this framework will highlight 3 critical skills divided across 2 competencies, the personal competence and the social competence. So for the personal competence, it is represented by your self-management, which refers to an individual's ability to control their own emotions and actions. And on the other hand, the social competence encompasses social awareness and your relationship management. So these skills help the FM effectively navigate group dynamics and maintain professional relationships. For example, if you look at the social awareness, it is particularly relevant when resolving tenant conflict, while self-management is crucial for staying calm during high-pressure situations. We'll take a look at the final tool, which is the Dix Behavioral Assessment. It is a refined tool that delves into behavioral tendencies of the FM. It focuses on your work priorities and your communication styles. It uses a 4-quadrant model to map out individuals across 2 primary axes, whether you're people-oriented or task-oriented, and whether you're a reserved communicator or an assertive communicator. Now, this assessment consists of 48 targeted questions and helps us identify descriptions that are most and least like of individuals. And from these responses, we categorize them into 4 behavioral types, you being dominant, cautious, supportive, or inspiring. And each type offers unique insights into how FMs approach their roles. For instance, if you're a dominant FM, it means that you excel in decisive and results-driven situations, whilst you being a supportive individual prioritizes collaboration and team harmony. Now, the most interesting part of this assessment is the customized individual reports, which are tailored assessments that provide valuable insights into your personality type. So this report allows you or anyone who takes the test to understand how your traits align with organizations or compare your profile to broader industry standards. So after understanding the tools for assessments, let us take a look at the traits of the facility manager. So we're about to identify the people behind the facilities. It is very important to know that because this is the first of its kind in the FM industry, we compared FMs to project managers in construction industry. We have done several studies on other professionals, but we compared these professionals because of their close similarities, as both of them are client and stakeholder focused. Before we proceed, note that all the positive results are indication of strengths for the FM, and results only show a spectrum, and they do not mean that one group is better than the other in any way. So let's proceed. When we look at the personality traits, which the Hexaco model assesses, these traits include conscientiousness, humility, and agreeableness, among others, which are very critical for managing complex environments. For instance, FMs tend to be more humble, which is the marker of a true leader. And we also observe a dip in the openness to experience traits. which might necessarily reflect the structured decision-making necessary in facility management as compared to the project managers. Next, we explored the emotional intelligence, and we focused on dimensions like self-management and social awareness and relationship management. However, FMs compared to project managers exhibit a lower self-management, possibly indicating stresses unique to this profession of the FM. And finally, when we look at the behavioral inventory using the DISC, two standout traits reflect that FMs have a dual ability to connect with their team and approach communication strategically, a balance which is very crucial for leadership in the FM industry. Now, we'll discuss how these traits align with the industry standards and real-world outcome. We'll look at the specific personality traits that define FM and discuss what it means to have these traits. Now, the first one is we assess through the hexacle model. Facility managers who exhibit humility, sincerity, and modesty are more likely to be viewed as dependable leaders. Now, these attributes, when you have them, they help build trust among teams and stakeholders, which is a foundation for a successful facility manager. If you look at the traits that underline, next slide, please. If we look at the traits that underline collaboration and adaptability, these traits highlight how FMs excel in navigating challenges. Perhaps the standout here is the FM's patience, scoring an impressive 13%. So this means that patience plays a vital role when you are dealing with long-term projects, conflict resolution, and unexpected disruptions that happen in any organization FM finds themselves. So what do these traits collectively tell us? They tell us that identifying and building on these traits ensure that FMs can adapt to dynamic situations, resolve conflict effectively, and foster a collaborative workspace culture in whatever organization they find themselves. So the takeaway here is very simple. FMs with these traits are not just efficient, but they are transformative leaders who bring stability and innovation to the roles they find themselves. Now, building on these traits, we discussed that FMs are both detail-oriented and innovative visionaries. First, we see exceptional boosts in their organization skills. These traits highlight the precision and systematic approach FMs bring to their roles. Whether they are coordinating multiple teams, whether they are managing resources being given to them, or they are planning long-term strategies, these qualities ensure that FM execute their tasks flawlessly. Now, we see a strong emphasis on creativity and curiosity. Now, these traits underline FM's ability to think outside the box. These are qualities that enable them design adaptive and future-focused solutions and to tackle challenges that they are presented with at any point in time in the organization. So the key takeaway, or what's very powerful here, is the balance that these traits create. FMs have been known for long to be just administrators, but we can see from these traits that they are visionaries. They combine a precise approach with creative problem solutions. In an industry as dynamic as the facility management industry, these traits are what drive transformation and innovation. These traits in the FM space ensure that the spaces that we manage are functional, sustainable, and inspiring for all those who use them. So we can clearly see why identifying these traits are important. Moving on, we have seen all the strengths the FM have exhibited, but we see something interesting for the FM, which is a challenge. They score some lower scores in the self-management trait. But why does this occur? Facility managers, as we all can see, often balance multiple demands simultaneously, from their managing teams and responding to the needs of the occupant, to handling crisis, and to ensuring that operations run smoothly. I am sure we have all been there before, where you are being pulled in all directions. So this constant juggling of responsibilities, paired with the unpredictable nature of facility management, creates this intense pressure. And that this environments naturally make self-management as a trait a more difficult trait to consistently exhibit. So that is why we are seeing these lower scores. However, this finding isn't necessarily a negative thing, right? It underscores that the FM industry is very complex and dynamic. And it's a reminder that training and mentoring can help FMs manage their diverse responsibilities more effectively. So this insight is just serving as a call of action to all of us that we need to balance everything that we have and have mentorship and training so that we can have better scores in the self-management trait. We further highlighted some two standout traits among the facility managers. Facility managers are high people-oriented and have very good reserved communication skills. FMs do well in their jobs that require positive, convincing, and trustworthy environments. They are great at managing relationships. They encourage their teams and create good working environments. Now, this skill is connected to people and helps them bring teams together and build trust within an organization, which is a very important trait in the fast-changing workplaces we have right now. Now, being a reserved communicator for an FM, it demonstrates the calmness and focus that FMs have even when they are under pressure. So this trait allows them to maintain stability and provide clear and thoughtful guidance during high-stress situations. So their reserved nature does not necessarily mean they shy away from communication. It just means that they prioritize thoughtful and deliberate exchanges that build trust and confidence. So we can see that together, these traits shows that facility managers are not just people-centric leaders, but also calm stabilizers in challenging environments. So we'll take a look at other important demographics pertaining to just the FM industry. There's no comparison being done here. And we see very fascinating distinctions between entry-level professionals and senior executives in the FM. Now, these traits they vary significantly and they reflect the need for mentoring and training of our future generation. So for entry level, we notice heightened fearfulness and anxiety. And of course, these traits indicate the cautiousness and apprehensive approach often seen in new professionals. And why is this so? Because they are adapting to their roles and responsibilities. I'm sure we have all been there. We are all once an entry-level person. And I'm also very sure that we have people like that in our office at this time. While this can sometimes lead to hesitancy, it also reflects a readiness to learn and a sense of accountability in their duties. In contrast, we can see that senior executives display a more polished and refined trait. The traits signal their confidence and ability to inspire anybody around them. So these traits combine to make senior executives better managers, setting the tone for organizational leadership. Now, these insights not only shed light on personal growth, but they underscore the very important takeaway of mentorship and structured professional development within the FM field. We took a look at a second demographic, looking at the management experience people have in the FM industry. So for FMs with 1 to 10 years of experience, we observed a tendency towards being modest. And this is so because these individuals are still in the process of building their confidence and learning the complexities of the FM field. Their modesty reflects an openness to feedback and a careful approach to decision-making as they navigate the stages of their career. However, we see that professionals with more than 10 years of experience exhibit rich area of developed traits. So if we take a look at their social self-esteem and their modesty, it highlights that these leaders balance traits of confidence and approachability. So these qualities combine to shape leaders who inspire trust and still encourage teams to approach them to be motivated. And this highlights how experience helps develop genuine leadership and clear communication, which are very crucial when you are managing complex teams and projects. It also further reminds us of the value of mentorship, and the need to keep growing and learning throughout our careers. Moving forward, we can all see that there's been a beautiful song being sung all throughout, the need for mentorship. So we are going to look at some impacts that we have seen for people who have been mentored. So a comparative analysis of mentorship impact on FM split by gender was conducted. It highlights that mentorship significantly improves key workforce for both women and men. For women, we see that those with mentors report a higher job security and lower stress levels. And similarly, for men with mentors, they benefit from clear career paths and enhanced career growth opportunities. Now, these insights emphasize the importance of mentorship and how it plays a role in fostering it in workplaces. So we are making a very strong case for committing mentorship programs in the facility management industry. Now, for this study, we looked at the importance of mentorship and we identified what makes an ideal FM mentor. Effective mentors, based on this study, are described by their strong organizational skills and exceptional ability to manage relationships and the likes. Now, these traits combine to make a winning combination for guiding others in the field. So this is to say, if our senior executives or the more experienced people have these traits, they are going to be able to better guide the younger generation who are about 8% coming into the industry. Moreover, we also saw that mentees under the guidance of such mentors shows some significant growth. They become more creative and develop heightened social awareness. And this allows them to navigate the workplace that they are scared of or have anxieties about better. So this is essentially emphasizing the importance of mentorship in creating both a better leader and stronger teams within the FM. Now, having discussed and identified all these traits across all these demographics and doing this comparative analysis, the future, however, for FM is one. It's identifying the distinct traits that sets an exemplary FM apart from the general population. So these aren't just arbitrary qualities, but benchmarks that truly define excellence in the FM field. So why is this identification very critical? It is because it directly addresses retention challenges which we are seeing from the economic data. And if we recognize high potential candidates early, organizations can nurture the talent and create clear career paths to success. By defining what success looks like in the FM, we can align our hiring processes to recruit individuals who are just not competent, but capable of evolving to become exemplary leaders. So this strategic approach we are looking at will help set a higher standard for the profession and ensure that FMs remain very impactful and forward-thinking. So going forward, there has been some intentional merging of critical insights and initiatives from studies that we have conducted. So first, we can see that our salary and compensation report was conducted, and this essentially provided benchmarks with a goal of ensuring that mentorship programs are aligned with career growth expectations and offer financial incentives to retain the talent we are looking at retaining. And next, this report that we just did on the HD profiles is going to combine industry-wide insights with traits of the exemplary FMs, which we are going to look at in 2025, to create a blueprint to nurture the skills we are looking at and the attributes we are looking at for the success in the FM. And lastly, we focused on the women in FM traits, which will underscore the importance of diversity and inclusion. Now, together, all these pillars will support and develop and help us develop the impactful mentorship program that we are looking at and the best practices that will be tailored to just the FM industry. Going forward, We want to see how you and I can apply this in the FM industry. When we look at recruitment, having identified the traits of anybody helps us to leverage mentoring programs, like we have been saying, and skills development frameworks. And organizations can use this to attract and retain talent. If you go on, we can see that it helps in mentoring. When you identify these traits, they serve as a bridge for knowledge transfer, allowing experienced leaders to impart knowledge, share their experiences, and guide the next future generation, which is our main concern right now. And for you as an individual, this process of identifying your traits will encourage you to reflect, enabling you to recognize your strengths and areas for growth. So once you're cultivating this self-awareness trait, FMs will better equip for ongoing development and long-term career projection. So together, all these can help us practically apply the identification of traits in the dynamic environments that we find ourselves. And it's very valuable for not just individuals, but for organizations at large. We looked at some interview questions that truly matter when you are identifying FMs. And these questions were designed not to just evaluate your technical skills, but the soft skills or the traits that we have been discussing so far. Now, if you look at the honesty and humility, we can see that this tests the integrity and self-awareness of anybody you are trying to get into your organization, and their ability to put greater good above personal gains. So this question essentially measures that. For social boldness, we explore scenarios where candidates have mentored someone through a challenging situation, and it's just understanding how they inspire confidence, build resilience, and guide others to grow beyond their comfort zone. And finally, we looked at justice, where we evaluate your fairness and decision-making skills. Now, this question challenges candidates to share how they approached a difficult decision that affected their team whilst ensuring balance, equity, and transparency. So these are just a few examples, but they present a thorough method to understand not only how candidates think, but also how they act in real-world situations. And they'll help you to uncover the human dimensions of FM, ensuring that you select leaders who would inspire trust and drive any organization's success that they find themselves in. So as we wrap up, let's reflect on the key takeaways from today's session. This tool is more than just a framework. Personally, I think it's a game changer for the FM professionals worldwide. We as FMs do not have the luxury of time to wait. So we need to empower organizations to understand their workforce better so that we can make impactful decisions the right way. The challenges that we have also outlined is not just theoretical. They are real because we measured 756 people around the world. They are very pressing and they demand immediate action. So the FM workforce is at a critical juncture. We all saw from the demographics data showing that the landscape is shifting, and it has come with the necessity to embrace new tools and use new methods like the human dimension methods. So if you're ready to take this step and you have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to my professor. And let's continue this important conversation so that we can shape a stronger and more resilient FM. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Juliana. Fantastic work. I want to call Juliana out. She's done a really good work on this on the research side of things, and we greatly appreciate all of her efforts to do this here. So, the main thing about this here is that we know it's all about the people. It's becoming more challenging in the future to find people. It is difficult here, but we have some ideas. We have some tools here that can now actually make this better. So we do have some time for questions. We have a couple questions that have come through here. Our first one is going to be from Dana. I don't know if we can bring up her questions. Dana asked about, do we look at the effect of education, our education programs like PMP or FMP or 6MIG or whatever we might be looking at? What sort of impact do they have on people's leadership skills and overall capabilities? So there's a couple of things in mind here. I'll post a link here in a minute about this, but there has been a research study by IFMA that looked at the impact of credentialing on two things. One is on the workers' overall productivity, and the second one was on the employees' long-term salary benefits. And in other words, do they earn more money as a result of getting credentials? And the answer is yes. We found there's an average of a 15% productivity increase for those that are credentialed. And we also found an average of $6,000 per year for people that for their salaries for those that are credentialed. So, Dan, to answer your question is yes, is that we did see a very positive impact of the education on all sorts of different facets of what does it look like for success of people as well. Great question, Dana. Thank you so much. The other question we had was from Penny. If we can put that one on the screen here, is how do folks manage change? Are they resistant? Do they drive change, or let change drive them? Right, respond to these different situations. So change management is a very broad area of focus and research. We actually did a study as a result of COVID and how facility professionals responded to and managed change. If you would like a copy of that study, it's an academic study, so it's very long and detailed. So if you want a copy of that, be sure to reach out to us. We can provide some details about that. But when you think about change and the impact of really what this is here is the role of mentorship in helping people navigate through some of these changes. So I'm going to post a link at least on the LinkedIn page about the impact of mentorship. We did a study with IFMA that, as Julian alluded to, is what the positive impact of mentors are on responding to different challenging situations at work. One of those being, as Penny asked about, is the role of change to this. Now, we didn't specifically look at people's ability to respond to change and what impact that has here, but the idea is that if we have somebody like a mentor that can help us navigate through those changes, that can certainly be a very positive thing that we want to look at and respond to that. So, Penny, Dana, thank you so much for your questions, and we're glad to take other questions as well. Anybody else have other questions or comments? Just take a look here, give folks a chance to respond to this here. If there's any questions or comments, please be sure to drop those in here. On the LinkedIn page, I just posted a link to the credentials study that we did, so be sure to take a look at that as well. Other questions or comments? One of the other questions we've also seen come through actually is how, as facility professionals, can we use these tools, the human dimensions tools, in our hiring and promotion processes? And that's a very common question we see here. So thanks for bringing that up. The best way to use these tools here is that as you look to make your hiring, promotion, educational decisions, is the human dimensions tool can be a way to help supplement other measures that you might currently use here. So if you're looking to get a slightly better view of who people are and how they might handle different situations, that's the ideal way to do that. So keep an eye out for that. That's really the best way to do that, is to use these tools to help make those hiring decisions going forward here. Other questions or comments? We've got another question that has come through, and the question is, what does the future look like for 2025 and beyond for some of these tools, and what's kind of the next step with this information as well? In fact, I think the best way to illustrate that is to go back to our slide here. I'll bring this up here, and I kind of illustrate what this is here. So the question is, what does the future look like as a result of this HD tool and going forward here? Is that we are embarking with IFMA on a new study about what is the best way to structure and manage mentoring programs. This will be looking at the chapter level, different organizations in terms of how do we actually set up a mentoring program between somebody who's being a mentor and a mentee, and that will be the primary focus, one of the major research projects that we'll be delivering in 2025. In fact, that's Juliana's PhD dissertation, so she's doubly motivated to work on that because it's an outstanding topic, right, Juliana?
Yes, definitely, Professor.
Absolutely, yes. It's going to be a great experience, and if you have an interest in being involved on those, be sure to drop us an email, and we'll provide a copy of that. One of the questions for Maureen, is it possible to get a copy of the presentation? The answer is yes. If you drop us an email, jake.smithwick@charlotte.edu. In fact, I'll pop that up on the screen here as the last slide. You can send us an email. I'll send you a copy of the slides. For a full copy of the full report, that'll be posted on the IFMA bookstore next week. And all the registrants will also get a link as a follow-up to the presentation as well. So Maureen, thank you so much for that. Other questions or comments? Well, thank you for all your time and effort for attending today here. We greatly appreciate it. If there is nothing else, we will go ahead and wrap up today. On behalf of Juliana and I and the entire team at IFMA, we wish you all a happy holiday season, if that's what you do. And otherwise, everybody take care of yourself. Thanks for being here today, and we will talk soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.